Alright, so today's lesson we are going to study about how to find a percentage and how to express a quantity as a percentage. Now, showing values in percentage standardize the value and makes it very easy for comparison and for comparison to be made. For example, if you have a math test and for the first exam or the topic test, you got 14 out of 20. And then for your second exam, you got like 15 out of 25. You want to know which marks is better, right? In this case here, because the total marks is slightly different, one is out of 20, the other one's out of 25, then what you need to do is you need to be able to convert that into a percentage so we can have a standardized value so we can compare. That's the reason we can express one number as a percentage of another number, and I would like to show you how to do that. All right, and then another common application of percentage is finding a certain percentage of a given quantity. Usually in the case where you go outside, you see some shops, they have some sales, and then they say 20% off or 45% off, and then you should be able to work out how much you can save. And that's the reason why we need to learn how to find how to find a percentage of a quantity. Okay, all right, so let's start from express one quantity as a percentage of another. All right, so to express one quantity as a percentage of another quantity. All right, so the common use again is, say, for example, in the school environment, we use that to compare the marks. All right, so how do we do it? Usually what we're going to do is we're going to write a fraction with the part amount as the numerator and the whole amount as the denominator. So what we need to do here is, first step, we need to write in a fraction. All right, so write a fraction with the part amount as the numerator and then the whole amount as the denominator. All right, so once we finish that, we have a fraction, and then once we have a fraction, we can convert a fraction to a percentage by multiplying by 100%. That's something we have learned from the previous lessons. So then we are going to convert a fraction into percentage. All right, so the example of that is from the previous example I told you, for example, you had a topic test. So for the first topic test, you have received 14 out of 20. So that's the result your teacher gave it to you, and you want to calculate what is that equals to in terms of percentage. So how would you do it? Well, it's 14 out of 100. So the part amount, you got 14, and then the whole amount of the total mark is out of 20. So that's 14 out of 20. So once you've got 14 out of 20, then the next step is we need to convert that fraction into percentage. So we'll multiply this number by 100%. All right, so after multiplying by 100%, we can actually simplify this fraction. So 100 divided by 20 is equal to 5. And then we just need to times 5 by 14. That gives us 70%. So according to that mark, 14 out of 20 is equivalent to 70%. 100% is equivalent to get like a 20 out of 20. So 14 out of 20, 70%. So that's the topic test number 1. And then if you want to compare the result that you get for the topic test number 2, and then you got, let's just put 15 out of 25. Okay, so that's the second result. You got 15 out of 25. The total amount of mark is different, and you also got a slightly higher mark than the previous one, but we want to know what is the percentage. All right, so how do we do it? Same thing. the part amount is 15 and the total amount is 25. We multiply here by 100%. And then we simplify the fraction, or you can use your calculator. So 100 divided by 25 is 4. So we times 4 by 15 here. That gives you 60%. Okay, so 15 out of 25 is the equivalent to 60%. So that just means 15 out of 25 is slightly lower than 14 out of 20. All right, so now you can make an easy comparison between the marks or between each student. All right, so that's the step, how to express one quantity as a percentage of another. It's a really easy calculation. All you need to do is be able to convert that into a fraction, and then once you know this is the fraction, then all you have to do is make that into a percentage. All right, I'd like to show you something that's slightly different this time, where you have to change the unit. Okay, so this is the first example. The second example would be something like, you need to express 50 cents, okay, as a percentage of $8. Okay, so interesting question. 50 cents as a percentage of $8. I want to know what is 50 cents as a percentage of $8. So how do I do it? Well, first step, this is the part amount. All right, 50 cents is part of $8. And then the whole amount is $8. That's the whole amount. All right, so the first step, all we need to do is we are going to write in terms of fraction, right? So can we write 50 over 8? Can we do that? Well, clearly, no. The reason for that is the units are different. One is in terms of cent, the other one is in dollars. So if you do 50 over 8, you're not going to get the correct answer. All right, so what we need to do is we need to change the unit. It doesn't matter which unit you want to leave. You can change the unit to cent, or you can just change the cent to dollar. All right, again, it's up to you. How about we just change everything to cents? So 50 cents over $8, and we know $8 is 8 times by 100 cents. Because each dollar is equal to 100 cents, so that becomes 800 cents. So that becomes 50 over 800, and we multiply this number by 100%. All right, so once we've finished that, we can use our calculator to do the calculation and work out what is the final answer there. So that the answer is 6.25%. So that tells you that 50 cents as a percentage of $8 is only 6.25%. So 50 cents represent around about 6% of $8. All right, that's the second example. All right, so please remember, change the unit if the units are different. All right, let's try another one. 3 kilograms, you're going to express as 3 kilometers as a percentage of 100 meters. Right, so this is a very interesting question. Firstly, we've got different units here. One is 3 kilometers, and then the other one is 100 meters. So what we need to do now is change into the correct unit, right? The same unit. You can change that into kilometers, or you can do it as meters. It's up to you. I prefer to change that into meters. Again, it doesn't matter. Let's just change that into meters. So that becomes 3,000 meters. And here's 100 meters. Now, this is the interesting one, all right? Because students sometimes they make a mistake because they just think the whole amount is always bigger than the part amount. So they will treat this one is the part amount. And then they will treat this 3,000, all right, is the whole amount, which is not true in this case because the question asks you to express 3 kilometers as a percentage of this total amount. All right, so you are going to get a number that's greater than 100% for sure. All right, so the answer for that question then, the way to do it is we're going to have the part amount, which is 3,000, okay? Part amount is 3,000 meters, and the whole amount is 800. Right, so the percentage will be 3,000 over 800, and we times by 100%. And in that case, we can work out what is the answer there. Right, so that becomes 375%. All right, obviously it's going to be greater than 100% because 3 kilometers is longer than 800 meters. Right, so just have to be a bit careful about which one is the whole amount, which one is the part amount. You can't just rely on the number, the size of the number. You need to read the question carefully. Okay, so this is the first part, how to express one quantity as a percentage of another. Okay, right, the second one is how to find a certain percentage of a quantity. All right, so that's the second point of this lesson. How to find a certain percentage of a quantity. All right, so the first step is if you want to find a certain percentage of a quantity, basically all you have to do is think about the word off. If they ask you, 20% off of a certain amount, then off means multiplication. So the first step I will do is to change the word off to a multiplication sign. Right, to a multiplication sign. So once you finish that, okay, and then we just can multiply, or we can, express the number as a fraction, and we can multiply the numbers, and then we should be able to work out the answer by just doing the calculation. All right, so let's just start with the first example here. If I want to find out what is 20% of $70, okay, how do I do it? 20% of $70, well, the first step here is change the word off to times. So that gives you 20% times by 70. Once you finish that, you can use your calculator, or in this case, you can just do the calculation by changing that 20% into a fraction. So that becomes 20 over 100 and times by 70. All right, so once you finish that, you can actually do the calculation, remove the zeros here, and you do get 140 over 10, which at the end becomes 14. So 20% of 70 is just equals to 14. All right, $14. So that's how you do it. It is, I think, really easy. All right, as long as you do understand about how to find a percentage of a certain amount, it is very, very easy, quick and easy to do. All right, I'd like to do a few more. How about 92% of 40? So the first step here is same thing. All right, we convert that 92% into a fraction. So that becomes 92 over 100. Off means multiplication. Change that into times, and we'll times by 40. All right, now do the calculation here. So you can actually do the calculation. That becomes 368 by multiplying 92 with 4 and then divided by 10. So that gives you 36.8. That becomes the answer. All right. Now, the next example will show you how to deal with question when the percentage is greater than 100%. Say, for example, 125%. What do we do? Of 54. How do we calculate what's 125% of 54? Well, I guess that's the same thing, right? There's no difference if the percentage is greater than 100% or less than 100%. First step is change that percentage into a fraction. Then the next step is change that off, okay, into multiplication sign, and you times by 54. Once you finish that, you can actually do the manual calculation, or you can use your calculator to work out the answer there. All right, so that's how you're supposed to do it. Again, if you don't want to use a calculator, you just have to do the manual calculation, pen and paper. Try to simplify the fraction before you times everything. Okay. But the answer here is 67.5 after you multiplying those out. Alright, so very easy type of question about how to find a certain percentage of a quantity, and in the next lesson I will teach you how to do how to work out the sales, how to find the discount, or how to find the percentage increase or percentage decrease using the method we just learned today. Okay, all right, thank you everyone.